Okay, guys. Today's debate topic is public safety against terrorism is more important than protection of privacy. AYRTON and BASSIE are arguing for the statement, and SIMRAN and PRIYA are arguing against. So, could your group please introduce the topic?
All right, so as he says, the topic of this debate is public safety against terrorism is more important than privacy, and we're for it. So basically, we're trying to give you a reason for why safety should be prioritized rather than privacy. So like with the progression of technology nowadays, it's becoming more and more difficult to keep your personal data to yourselves. So naturally, as there's more clashes between privacy and security, this topic in itself becomes more and more debated. So although like we do support privacy, and we just believe it's more important for the government to protect its citizens. This debate isn't as much about privacy versus security as it is about how much security should be sacrificed. This is because with full privacy, nobody could be truly held accountable for their actions. Since if there was full privacy, then you wouldn't be able to identify the suspect, meaning you wouldn't be able to hold them accountable. With over 372 mass shootings in 2015 in the US alone, there are several tragic incidents that could have been prevented if privacy was breached. So out of all the cases that sparked most debate, the one that was probably of the highest profile would be Apple versus the FBI. So for a little bit of background information, on December 2nd, 2015, 14 people were killed and 22 were injured in a terrorist attack in San Bernardino. So after like the shootout with the police, the iPhone was recovered from one of the suspects. So in order to access this device, the FBI had to get through a security measure where if you put in the wrong password 10 times, then all the data from the phone is gone. So since they needed the data, they asked for help from Apple. But Apple eventually said that they value the privacy of their citizens, of their customers too much, so they didn't go through with it. So granted, the scenario may be like different from other mass shootings, but the result was still the same, as there were several like preventable innocent casualties. If the FBI did get access to the phone, which they eventually did from a third party, then they could better understand the suspects, their motives, and like their journey to being radicalized, which helps with future cases and preventing future terrorist attacks. Had they not gotten access, however, then they would have stayed in the dark regarding terrorism and placed the citizens' safety at risk. This is far from the only tragedy, but I think it's just the best example because it sparked the most debate between security and privacy. Like essentially, to sum up my point, everyone has a different comfort level to how much security we should how much privacy we should tap into for security. But I believe individual privacy should be sacrificed for the greater good and for national security. And honestly, if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about. So that's my intro.
Okay, so you have 3 minutes to prepare. Okay, and we'll hear the response.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to refute my opponent's points. So as he said, that the government needs to sacrifice privacy of individuals in order to stop crime and to find solutions to problems. However, this is not the case, and that the government should find other means to solve such problems, and why must privacy be sacrificed? So also, they are talking about technology and how the growing rate of technology is sacrificing individual privacy. So when we download apps or make purchases to give away personal information, they're saying that privacy is sacrificed anyways. So many of the apps we download for free can be a way for marketing companies to profit from our personal data, or even a gateway for thieves to steal our personal information. Security expert Chester Winsky warns nothing is truly free. Your free app comes with a price, he says, and that price is your personal information. Your free app, if it's free, they're going to make money somehow. It probably means they're making money by taking your personal information and selling it. Therefore, by saying that we lose privacy anyways, by providing people or the government with information to solve such problems, you're essentially proving your point that privacy must be protected in order to stop or reduce higher level crimes. However, my partner and I stand firm on our point that protection of privacy is more important than public safety against terrorism. I would like to start off by stating the definitions of the key words which will be heard constantly throughout this debate. National security, a concept that a government, along with its parliament, should protect the state and its citizens against all kinds of national crisis. Privacy is the state or condition of being free from being observed or disturbed by other people. It is freedom from damaging publicity, secret surveillance, or unauthorized disclosure of one's personal data or information, as by a government, corporation, or individual. Loss of privacy works hand in hand with loss of identity. It is said that the more freedom people have, the greater their health, wealth, and prosperity. The less their freedom, the more their impoverishment, disease, and famine. We are all familiar with having our privacy invaded by someone reading your diary, spreading a secret, coming into where we thought we'd be alone, or listening to a conversation without our knowledge. The use of new technologies only seems to provide simple extensions of the ways in which our privacy has been traditionally invaded. What difference does it make whether others open envelopes to read a mail or break into our computer accounts to look at our email? Either way, they are obtaining information about us that we did not give them permission to obtain. Technology has certainly created new ways in which others can invade our privacy, by reading our email, using high-powered listening devices through walls, recording our telephone transmissions, and much more. The concept will remain the same, although the ways in which our privacy can be invaded may be different. Life after computers and other technologies may seem like life after the invention of modern forms of transportation. It used to be that a pedestrian could be run down by a horse or a carriage or a cart. Now a pedestrian can be run down by a car or a truck or a motorcycle, a bus, or a train. A pedestrian's life is more dangerous because there are more ways in which one can be run down, by bigger things going much faster. But still, one can be run down. The extent and magnitude of harms may differ, but the kind of harm remains the same. What is most of value is freedom to control information about ourselves. That control gives us power to regulate our relationships with others, and when an individual's privacy is stolen, the information that is stolen is taking someone's identity, and it is taken by means of information over which the person whose identity is taken has little or no control. There have been many papers and speeches over the last few years concerning the loss of privacy and the dangers of identity theft in the United States and in the world. Many blame the loss, or at least the reduction of personal privacy, on the intrusions of the government under the endorsement of increasing security in response to terrorism attacks. While this approach to understanding issues surrounding the loss of privacy may be appealing to the media and some civil liberties, it is far from the truth and leads to policymakers trying to solve the wrong problems. Protection of basic privacy of each and every individual should be mandatory. According to a researcher at the Santa Clara University, all human beings have 3 lives: public, private, and secret. Increasingly, governments, corporations, and other entities are collecting information about you that you willingly or unknowingly give out online. Even apps like games or Facebook quizzes may now be collecting a wealth of data about you. Your name, your age, your gender, your physical address, email address, phone number, the particular device from which you access the internet, your religious and political affiliation, relationship status, and what you look like. Leaving your house or getting on the internet is not secure or private. Internet service providers can keep a record of the sites you visit, every move you make online. Websites use cookies to follow people around the internet. They use them to see what sites people are visiting and to see what people are downloading. Every time you use your credit card online, you can never be sure if it will be secure or if someone will be able to access it. Basic information like this, such as credit card numbers, passwords, and information that you enter about yourself, can be accessed by people who can potentially misuse this information. This now leads to identity theft and identity fraud. Identity theft refers to the stage of acquiring and collecting someone else's personal information for criminal purposes. Identity fraud is the actual deceptive use of this identity information of another person, living or dead, in connection with various frauds. Identity theft techniques can range from unsophisticated, such as dumpster diving and mail theft, to more elaborate schemes. Technology, mainly the internet, facilitates more elaborate schemes such as phishing and hacking as criminals gather profiles of potential victims. Computer spywares and viruses designed to help thieves acquire personal information are an emerging trend. Victims of identity theft and fraud can experience financial loss and difficulty obtaining credit or restoring their good name. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, CAFC, maintains statistics on the complaints they receive. In 2009, the CAFC received identity fraud reports from 11,000 Canadian victims, totaling a loss of more than $10 million. Criminals can use your stolen or reproduced personal information to access your bank accounts, open new bank accounts, transfer bank balances, hide their criminal activities, obtain passports, or receive government benefits. Also, using identity theft to facilitate organized crimes and terrorist activities appear to be a growing trend. So when my opposition talks about protecting the country from threats such as terrorist attacks, how can this be possible if the root from which it all grows is not cut? Personal privacy must be protected in order to stop or decrease the rate at which attacks are being planned and conducted. Social media is also a key aspect of why personal privacy is being lost. Privacy is dead. Look at the society around you. Nearly everyone posts your location and activities on Twitter, uses Facebook as their diaries, and gives us an up-to-date image of their face on Instagram. Small-scale crimes can occur. As you update your family and friends about your daily whereabouts, criminals could also use this to learn your schedule. They can figure out when you tend to be away from your home to stage a break-in. Whereas large-scale crimes can occur when exposed privacy on social media can cause your personal information to go into the wrong hands, possibly terrorists. Security expert Chester Winsky conducted an investigation for Global News by breaking into his own phone as an attacker to find out how much information some of the most popular free apps are taking. The results may have you thinking twice about the apps you download on your phone. Facebook. When Winsky tested the Facebook app, he noticed that it captured your exact GPS location, what cell phone company you're using, and what Wi-Fi access point you're connected to. Snapchat, a popular video messaging application, could pose serious privacy risks for users. When the application was examined, information like your phone number, your date of birth, your password, and even the amount of battery life left on your phone was taken into account. A recent study conducted by researchers from the University of California, Riverside, found that almost 9% of popular apps downloaded from Google Play or the Apple App Store interacted with websites that could compromise user security and privacy. So when my opponents say that privacy is compromised anyways for security, this is not true. When an individual's privacy is at risk, so is their security. What may seem like something that is only related to one person or a small group of people can end up affecting the entire country. This can be clearly seen through the 9/11 attacks. The 9/11 attacks were a shock, but they should have not come as a surprise. Islamist extremists had given plenty of warning that they meant to kill Americans in large numbers. Thereafter, Islamist terrorism was considered an approaching national security and public safety threat. Restrictions on law enforcement surveillance was instantly cited as part of America's failure to prevent the 9/11 attacks. However, at the same time, the one main question that arises is, how did these terrorists enter the United States with such ease? They had entered the country by using the personal information of American citizens to make fake passports and travel documents. This way, they easily blended into America's diverse population. It is clearly seen that the terrorists need to invade the privacy of individuals in order to be successful. If privacy were protected, then such situations would not take place. The protection or security of the nation starts by the protection of individual privacy. Protecting the privacy of government leaders and buildings is crucial. You're not allowed to take pictures inside many government buildings. For example, the Parliament Building, Supreme Court of Canada, and Rideau Hall are examples of buildings in Ottawa, Ontario, where taking pictures is strictly forbidden. Such laws and regulations protects the privacy of leaders and the nation as a whole. All in all, it is clear that privacy needs to be protected first in order to stop such crimes from occurring. Individual privacy is crucial for the protection of the nation as a whole. If we cannot have the liberty to do our own thing, if people invade our privacy, how can we be secure as a nation? It just isn't possible. The point is that personal privacy has a huge value. Once we have individual privacy, only then can we move on to the security or protection of the nation. Benjamin Franklin is often quoted as having said, "Those that give up liberty for a little temporary safety deserve neither and will lose both." Thank you for listening.
Okay, AYRTON, let's hear your response.
So, considering my opponent said that freedom is for oneself and that 9/11 was because people had that sort of privacy and they needed. When you look at it, the government should have this sort of information and your privacy, because if they had that information, they could prevent that stuff and just prevent it before it happens in general. Like, the root of terrorism is because of privacy. Privacy is people do bad things because of them taking advantage of that privacy. You don't know what someone is doing behind the scenes at their house, just planning anything. They could be using their phones, their emails, just all that sort of stuff. And because of that privacy, the government wouldn't be able to prevent such a crime from happening in the first place. The loss of privacy is Well, first of all, the government would be able to hold on to that information. You don't really have to worry about someone hacking into the government. If you were to give something to an app, sure, you can think of losing information and losing your privacy that way, but the government is more secure than these sort of apps. Considering how much people release this sort of information willingly, people should just let the government access this information to prevent that sort of terrorism and crime. People usually don't have any second thoughts when creating like accounts on the internet, purchasing new apps. So why not give it to the government when you just want it for your own personal gain? You gotta think more about like others and not just yourself, because people like in general, they don't really take kindly to the thought of dying. So just by giving up that sort of personal information, you're taking one for the team, and you're also not just benefiting others, but you're benefiting yourself as you can keep your own life. So many websites nowadays, they ask for your name, date of birth, country, telephone number, and gender. Search engine Google is no exception to this. A lot of people have Google accounts, and that actual number is around 90 million people in 2012. Therefore, Google has this sort of information, but you can't exactly trust them like the government does. The government is more safe and secure, and just that sort of stuff is like what differentiates the government and Google. Creating new accounts, they aren't the only thing that are an exception to this. Just purchasing the apps, like they said, like people give up a lot of information just for those apps. They reveal your credit card number and all that stuff, debit card number. Like people can take from that, but if the government has it, like I said, you don't really have to worry about that. Like the government keeps your information safe, and they're using this information for a good cause in order to save others and yourself. So like in terms of apps are asking for, apps would be asking for your camera, microphone, location, just using your phone. It's not really keeping you safe. But when the government, like I said, when the government has this information, they prevent like people from hacking it and stuff. Just Google Maps and Apple Maps, two of the most heavily used apps in the year of 2014, had around 24.5 million and 42 million users respectively. These apps track your location, and as a result, someone always knows where you are. With this sort of information of knowing where you are, why not let the government keep you safe by knowing where you are and helping you with staying safe and not like getting involved in a crime. Lastly, there is the issue of social media. With the rise of social media, people are now more willing to show their private lives more than ever. Many of these users, being in their teens, show what the direction the world is going towards. The trend is likely to grow farther with an increasing amount of social media apps coming out. In 2014, Facebook had over 150 million users. Instagram had over 46 million users. Twitter had over 34 million users, and Snapchat had over 26 million users. With all these numbers in the millions, it is very likely that they have increased over the past 2 years. If people are so willing to give up their personal lives, then they should just trust the government to have access to this information and use it for the benefit of others and themselves and yourself. Thinking of the community and being able to take one for the team is by giving your unneeded privacy is the major key to protection against terrorists. Terrorists, like in general, they'd be taking this privacy and be trying to like plot out their next events. If the government had your information, you don't have to worry about these terrorists. You can be safe and not worry about anybody following you, anybody like planning to kill you, the government would be able to protect you.
Okay, we'll hear the response from Priya.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So before I state my own beliefs and arguments regarding this topic, I'd like to take this opportunity to refute and disprove what my opponent said. So you said your main argument was that the root of terrorism is because of privacy and that taking advantage of that privacy. That's basically what we're trying to prove. So I don't understand. You were basically proving our own argument. And you said that privacy should be given to the government because it's more secure there. So how is it possible if the government itself isn't secure? How is it not possible that people associated with the government and the people associated in the government are associated with terrorists and aren't a part of that government? So I don't really understand the root of your argument because it was basically proving our argument. But moving on to my own belief and arguments, I'd like to speak about the main point and argument of the loss of control, which leads into the loss of autonomy, cyber terrorism, and racial profiling, which all fit under it. So being able to be in control is an instinctive core aspect of human nature. Whether it be small things like changing the TV channels,